Okay. No, how long did you say we've been homeschooling?
Well, how
Tanner's
long
Tanner's
has
in
it
fourth
been in
grade.
school? I mean, it's not that hard.
Ah, welcome back to Pennies and Salt. I'm Megan, a homeschooling mom of 6 kids who doesn't even know how old her son is. No, really. Thank you for joining me today. I am Megan and I am a homeschooling mom of 6 kids. My oldest is 9, he's in 4th grade. Then I have a 2nd grader, a kindergartner, a pre-K that is being homeschooled with the kindergartner, a 2-year-old, and an almost 6-month-old. So very stair-stepped in age. We have been homeschooling, I guess, I still should have counted this before I started the video. Uh, no, it's more than 4 years. Kindergarten's a 5th year.
No, first, second,
Okay,
third,
so
fourth,
officially
fifth.
my oldest was registered as a kindergartner, but we started with pre-K. So 6 years we have been homeschooling. Oh my goodness. But it really doesn't seem like that long, and I definitely don't have it all figured out. But I am going to share with you today 5 tips for homeschooling kids of multiple ages. This is actually a collaboration that is hosted by my friend Jessica over at Fields Full House. I absolutely love her channel and her sweet family, so make sure you check them out. And also make sure you check out the playlist and all the other ladies who are part of this collab. They are some great and wonderful ladies that also have excellent channels with excellent information. Okay, so these 5 tips that I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to start with the first one. These are in no particular order, but the first one and my biggest thing that I have found so helpful this year, and I kind of did this last year as well, is to do as many subjects together as possible. So for our family, because we have kind of that wide range, I chose to do science, Bible, and history together as a family. So I will pop up a card to one of the videos where I shared our history curriculum. I also have a science curriculum video, and I can't remember which video I talk about what we're using for Bible as a family, but it has been super helpful this year, especially since we had another baby join us in May. So that is my first tip. And as far as that goes, I do have some recommendations for some different curriculum that works really well for this. The good thing about science and history is that science is science, history is history. You can always learn more and you can always go deeper. So, for example, some really good science curriculums to use with families or with multiple ages is The Good and the Beautiful. They do science units, which is what we're using this year, part of what we're using. Also, master books. I have looked extensively into that, and I'm thinking that I might go with that for next year for our science curriculum. But what's great about those is it is written in a way that it can be adapted for several age ranges. So currently what we are going through right now is actually a Bob Jones 3rd grade science. I did not buy it. Actually, our homeschool umbrella is also a private Christian school, and every year they purge curriculum. Well, it was a brand new student textbook for Bob Jones 3rd grade. And it looked great, and I was like, well, I can use this. And so actually it's been wonderful. It has all kinds of resources at the end of each chapter, and it's a really great guide for teaching science to actually my whole family. So I will pop in some clips of a science lesson with them, and I'm also going to share in another video pretty soon to do a science lesson with me, and I'm going to show you how we use that. So that is my recommendation there. Some other curriculums that are great. One that we've used, and this is the first year we're not using it, is My Father's World. The only reason that we took a break this year from My Father's World is because my 2 youngest ones are too young to start into the family cycles. And if I start the family cycles of My Father's World, I want all of them to be able to be in it because it is kind of pricey. It's not so bad price-wise if you have 4 kids going through it together. And it is an absolutely wonderful curriculum. Last year we did Adventures in U.S. History with my 1st grader and my then 3rd grader, and it was absolutely wonderful. It's a very well written curriculum. This year we are using Story of the World and Mystery of History. Like I said, check out the video for the history curriculum that I shared, because it does have flip throughs of both, and it shows how we are using it this year. I actually have leaned more towards liking Story of the World a lot better, but that's just personal preference. I feel like it's written in a much more interesting way, but anyway, side note. So it is one that is very adaptable for a wide age range, and all of my kids absolutely love it. So those are my recommendations there. So Master Books, The Good and the Beautiful, My Father's World, Story of the World, and Mystery of History. Those are all really great resources for homeschooling multiple age ranges, for science, and for history. All right, so did you put it in the water?
It's drinking.
Yeah, neat. Look at that.
Wow.
So now you can see it much better,
Now
can't
can we
you?
draw it, Mama?
Yes, so this is what you're going to do. You don't have to draw the glass. You can just draw the actual plant in your book. But I want you to start with the roots.
I'm going to draw the cup with it. Hey, this.
Okay, so my second tip is one that I have found to be super, super helpful, and that is to do heavy subjects during nap time. So right now, my baby naps in the morning, which works out great because that's when we do our family subjects together. And then also in the afternoon. Well, also in the afternoon, while my baby naps, my 2-year-old is napping, and so is my 5-year-old and my 6-year-old. So the only ones awake normally during that time are my 7 and 9-year-old. So what I mean by heavy subjects is, of course, language arts / reading and math. So, well, I call them heavy subjects. And the only reason I call them that is because sometimes it takes a little more teaching from you and more one-on-one time. And so that's why I call it heavy subjects. And we don't always have to use that time. My 4th grader has become extremely independent with math and with language arts. I think we're almost at the point where he could probably school himself with just me facilitating things. Which is super helpful and really awesome. But I still go over everything with him just to make sure and check for understanding, because I don't want him to have any gaps or miss anything really important or learn things wrong. But that is a really great way to use your time wisely with homeschooling, is to put off those subjects until nap time, if that works for your family. So that's my second tip. Okay, so tip number 3 is to provide busy activities for little ones. Okay, so Lily is definitely the poster child for a busy toddler. She is into everything. I think she's into more things than any of my other kids have been into. And so she also really likes to take away attention and interrupt during lesson times. Today, for example, she entertained herself by blowing bubbles. So there's one example of a busy activity. I do try to get her involved in what we're doing because she does like feeling like she's part of everything, and that does kind of help cut down on the toddler antics. But some other ideas that we find super helpful on ways to curb her from interruption is she loves to draw on the little dry erase boards, and I got some from the Dollar Tree, of course, for $1, and she loves to do that. Another thing is Play-Doh. Of course, that's kind of difficult sometimes because then my kindergartner and my preschooler really want to join in as well. The other things are magnets. We have those little magniform things, and she will sit and play with those for a while. Just letting her craft, and this is something she really likes to do sometimes, is just, you could tear up little pieces of paper and give her a glue stick and she'll go to town. She'll just glue everything onto one piece of paper, just little pieces. It makes her feel like she's doing something, and she is. So that's another way to keep her attention. Another thing is stamps. We have like these little Disney princess stamps and stamp pads. We also have letters and number stamps and things like that. So that's a great thing. She likes doing that. But again, then my other kids really want to join in as well. So that makes it a little difficult there. Another thing is just coloring. She loves to color. She loves to draw, especially if what we are doing has to do with pencil and paper. Also beads, like beading activities or water beads. Those are both things that keep her attention really well. And of course, like I mentioned, bubbles. Okay, so now we're at number 4, and number 4 has become one of my favorite things about our homeschool, is that we do year-round homeschool. And at first, I thought that that was a terrible thing when I heard people say that they do school year-round, but I have grown to absolutely love it, and I think my kids have too. And the biggest thing is that we are a family. We do life together, and when we do life together, that it affects all of us. So if life happens and we need to take a little bit of a break, it's such a renewal to our homeschool. I find it really hard sometimes if one of the little ones is sick, or we have doctor's appointments, or we just need to take a break or whatever. I was finding it very difficult to try to squeeze everything in, especially with all the distractions and interruptions of life. And so we start our homeschool year as soon as we possibly can. The day that we register for our new upcoming homeschool year with our umbrella school in July, we start that. I think we started that day or the day after. I can't remember now. But it was like mid-July we started our homeschool year, and we will wrap it up probably the day before we close out with our umbrella school in the summer. So July to July. Now, we usually do end up having more hours or more days for the school year than what you're required, and that's totally fine. And when we finish a curriculum, we'll just move right into the next one. So that's kind of how we do things, and I have found it super, super helpful. So it gives you some breathing room. It also gives you mental health breaks, and it helps with life events that might happen, and we love it. Okay, so now we're moving into our 5th and final tip, and that is to incorporate unit studies and a morning basket. Now, I did not used to do a morning basket, but I have found it super, super helpful. I will put a link up at the top to my video about how we use morning basket, because I think different people use it different ways, and you kind of have to find what works for you and your family and what your goal is with it. But basically all it is this basket that I fill with morning starters, homeschool starters for us, things just to get us off on the right foot with our homeschool day. And so, for example, a current read aloud. I'm actually teaching this in my novel studies class at Co-op, and I really have been enjoying teaching it, so I started it with my own kids. I was going to hold off another year or two, but they're actually really enjoying it too. But those kinds of things, some Bible things, nature readers, different things like that, they stay in our morning basket just to help us get off on the right foot. So another thing that I like to incorporate shortly after it, I kind of included it in this part with the morning basket because we move straight into it from here, and sometimes I will put the things in here. But my two oldest boys they have a handwriting curriculum that they do independently, and they also have a geography curriculum and a vocabulary curriculum that they do on their own. And so I include those in kind of the morning basket time. So what we do is normally we will start our day with a day starter from morning basket. Then we will move into some independent time for my older boys to work on those things that I mentioned. And then that time I will be working with my two kindergartners, preschool, kindergartner. They're working through kindergarten together. I will work with them, and that way it keeps my older boys close and occupied in doing some of their independent work while I work with them, and then we move into our family subjects after that. So I include those things as our morning basket as well. So another thing, I mentioned unit studies. Unit studies are so much fun. This is a great book, for example. I'll show this one again to do a unit study with. And what I mean by that is to branch off and do more than just read the book. There is so much we talked about and looked at how they built cabins back then. You can have them do a project like they could build their own little mini cabin from sticks that they find out in the yard, because it goes into detail about the chinking that they put between the cabins. Imagining that you are a 12-year-old boy living in the wilderness all alone and what that would be like. You can do riding with. You can go further and learn about the Maine territory, about the Native Americans that lived in the area, all of those kinds of things. And just really anything that is interest-led to learn about in there is you can make into a unit study. So, and also our science, I did mention we're doing the Good and the Beautiful science as part of our science this year, and it is done in unit studies as well. That means it's just short, it's like a series of basically 7 lessons to cover one specific topic in science, for example, but you can do the same with history, you can do the same with a read aloud, anything like that. So those are my 5 tips, and I hope that you found that helpful. If you have any ideas of your own or tips of your own to give to others, make sure you put them down in the comments down below. And thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and join me on future videos. Thanks, and bye.